so you'll be able to see everything.
Want me to hold that for you?
Sure, if you like. My assistant, Guy. Break gas. Okay, the digestive system already consists of an alimentary canal, which begins in the mouth and ends in the anus. It has several accessory organs that secrete substances used for digestion. The mouth consists of the teeth, which are used for chewing and mixing of food. You have the hard palate, the soft palate, the uvula, the tongue, which is connected to the hyoid bone. The tongue is used for mixing food and pushing food towards the pharynx for swallowing. There are...
I am so sorry. That was supposed to be muted.
There are 3 sets of salivary glands. You have the submandibular gland, the parotid gland, which secretes fluid rich in amylase, and you have the sublingual gland, which is just behind the tongue, or just under the tongue. And then you have 3 sets of tonsils. You have the pharyngeal tonsils, or the adenoids, the lingual tonsils that are posterior to the tongue, and the adenoids, which are on both sides of the mouth. When food enters the mouth, it is chewed and mixes with saliva and is rolled into a mass called a bolus. The bolus is then pushed over the epiglottis, which closes and enters the pharynx. The pharynx gives rise to the esophagus, whereby peristaltic waves pushes the bolus into the stomach, where the stomach consists of these regions: the fundic region, the body, the pyloric region, the pyloric canal, and the pyloric sphincter. These little ridges here are called rugae. And inside the stomach, when food enters the stomach, it mixes with hydrochloric acid and pepsin, and through peristalsis, the food mixes with, or is mixed and crushed together and does whatever it does, and creates a semi-fluid paste called chyme. And, make sure it's in place here. The chyme is then pushed through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine, where bile is secreted by the liver and gallbladder into the major duodenal papillae, and pancreatic secretions are secreted through the major duodenal papillae and the minor duodenal papillae, which is this little spot right here. And the pancreas sits in the C shape of the duodenum, and it consists of the body, the pancreatic ducts, and the little tail there. The pancreas secretes pancreatic juices high in bicarbonate ions, which are responsible for digestion of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And also the bicarbonate reduces the acidity of the chyme. The second section of the small intestine is the jejunum, where the majority of the absorption takes place. Inside the lining of the jejunum are tiny villi called villi. They absorb the microscopic nutrients and are absorbed into the bloodstream. The third section of the small intestine is the ileum. The ileum is where much of the electrolytes and vitamins such as B12 and water are absorbed through the wall and into the bloodstream. By the time the material makes it through to the large intestine, it has a rather pasty consistency, and is mostly waste products and water, which is what we refer to as stool. And when the stool leaves the ileum, it does so by way of the ileocecal sphincter, and goes into the first part of the large intestine called the cecum. At the bottom of the cecum is the appendix. From the cecum gives rise to the ascending colon. From the ascending colon to the transverse colon. From the transverse colon to the descending colon. At the bottom of the descending colon is an S-shaped sigmoid colon that turns into the rectum. from the rectum, turns into the anus, from the anus to the, anal canal, from the anal canal to the anus. And on the anus we have two sphincters. We have an internal anal sphincter, which is involuntary, gives us the urge to defecate, and the external anal sphincter, which is voluntary and gives us the ability to defecate. And then you get to the, I'm going fast here. Then you have the liver, which is the largest organ in the body. Just a little bit to the back. You have the right lobe and the left lobe, which are separated by a round ligament. You have the caudate lobe. You have the gallbladder, the cystic duct here, the hepatic duct, which splits off. You'll see this here. And then the common bile duct, which empties into the duodenum. And you have the hepatic artery, the inferior vena cava, and the hepatic portal vein, which the villi where the micronutrients or the microscopic nutrients are secreted actually go into the hepatic portal artery. So, any questions? Did I make my 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Okay.